This is that awkward moment when you just go live on Facebook and you're curious, is anybody going to be able to join me today? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it is for you, and welcome to this week's edition of Coffee Chat with me. I am Catherine Oster. Good morning, Mom. There we go. Good morning, you guys. I am coming to you live from Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, Canada. We're doing bars starting today and foundation class starting tomorrow. And I rented like the cutest little cabin. They're called Jack Pine Cabins. I'll give you a look. Let me set my coffee down. And they're just super cute. Here we go. So we've got a little kitchenette area here. And then there is washroom, 2 bedrooms with 2 beds in, and actually some pretty comfy couches. It's pretty nice, actually. So what I wanted to chat with you guys about today is like, what is consciousness part 2? If you saw Coffee Chat last week, I started talking about, I've really been kind of wondering, what is consciousness for me? Like, consciousness is just not being awake, breathing, basically just being alive. It's not just that. Like, what is it really? And what are some of the things in my life since I've been using these tools to become more conscious? What is that? Good morning, Shannon. Good morning. And I would say one of the things that popped for me this week when I was asking myself that question is the ability to ask for things. Consciousness is the ability to ask for things. And I'll never forget my first bar session that I received. And the bars practitioner, she asked me if I could have her change anything in my life out of this session, what would that be? And that in itself totally blew my socks off. I'm like, what do you mean? I can ask for something? There was this whole paradigm around just being satisfied and happy with what you have and feeling like you can never ask for what you really want. You could maybe wish. A wish has a different energy to it than an ask. Be happy with what you have, and maybe one day you'll be good enough to get something a little bit better. But what if that's not true? What if when you ask for something, then the universe, consciousness, whatever that is, knows what to deliver to you? And so my first bar session, I asked to not be late anymore. Time was a thing for me, and I asked to not be late. And I was really just starting out going on my own teaching riding lessons. And I had 2 kids, and I was always 10 minutes late. And I didn't want to be late because in my mind that was unprofessional. And I didn't want to have an unprofessional business. And no matter how early I started getting ready, I was always late. Good morning, Ruby. Excuse me. And so while she was running my bars, we started talking about, what this lateness is. And she asked me if my mom was late. And I'm like, no, my mom was always early. Always early. And there was definitely an energy there of resistance and reaction that I had to being early. Because I was doing the opposite, basically, of what my mom did. And I was unconsciously perpetrating that in my life without even thinking about it. It felt like it was something I could never change. So after that, we ran some of these energetic clearing statements. She's running my bars. And then it was like, I want to say 2, and I never gave it another thought. I actually, after that full bar session, I got off the table and I was like, what the fuck? Like, wow. So light and happy and peaceful. Anyway, it was like 2 weeks later, and I was driving to riding lessons. I had already gotten ready, I had already dropped the kids off with my mom, and I was on my way to lessons, and I looked at the clock, and I was going to arrive 5 minutes early. And I'm like, damn, that has changed. This is the first time I knew it right then, and I was so happy and excited. And I knew that in there that there is something to, I mean, I knew before, but I was like, this is fucking magic. Asking for something, that is consciousness. And then I started asking for like random things in our lives. So I'm also a grain farmer. My husband, we grain farm with his brother and his wife. And it was like 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, Travis and I were randomly talking. And randomly talking, that's funny. What is randomly talking? Anyway, we were just chatting, like visiting. We were driving to Lloyd for the movies or something. And I was like, the price of canola was probably $10. Hey, good morning, Ross. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to sell canola for $20? Like, what would that even be like? Like, that would be so exciting. And he looked at me and he's like, you're ridiculous. That is never gonna happen. That's a lot of money. And then I was like, what would it be like to sell wheat for like, $10 or $12? And back then wheat was probably like $7, $6. And he's like, no, like that's like a crazy, outrageous pipe dream. But I was this energy of like wondering and curiosity. And I didn't care. I was literally probably throwing it out there just to like blow his mind. And here we are. Like we sold this crop, some of the canola from this crop, and a little bit from our last crop for those prices, for $20 a bushel, for $10 a bushel. Like it happened. It showed up. It was a beyond, and there it is. Asking, like randomly asking for something. When Travis, we were selling our calves this year, hauling them into Lloyd to the stockyards. And I'm riding with him and I'm like, we were kind of, again, I was like, so what would you like to sell, the calves for this year? What would be a good price for them? And he's like, like I'd be happy with like $1,300. That would be cool. And he kind of did the math with how many calves we had and what that amount of money would be. And then of course, then his mind also goes into, then I have to pay for my feed and I want to buy this and yada, yada, yada. But he's like, but if I got $1,500, that would be like amazing. And I'm like, yeah, that would be cool. Like, I wonder what that would be like. And sure enough, when we picked up our check, our average price with all of our calves was $1,530. And I'm like, didn't we ask for that? Like, I'm like, didn't you ask for that? He's like, yeah, I did. And I'm like, wow, how does it get better than that? And same thing, like a girlfriend of mine, so they run a horse sale, and I was visiting with her like 3 or 4 days. It was like just a few days before the sale, maybe in that first week before their sale was, and it was all online sale. And they were selling mostly weanlings. And I was like, hey, like, what would you like to get out of this sale? What have you, considered a dollar amount? Have you asked for an amount? And she's like, well, this certain amount would be good. I'd be happy with that. Hey, Bobby. But she's like, but if we got this amount, that would be really cool. And then I'm like, what would it take? What would that be like? And we did like a little energy pull exercise. There's these little tools you learn. Like, what if everything is energy? And when you are asking for things in your life, not from the energy of needy, like you need them, not from projection and expectation, but from like a true sense of like wondering, curiosity of like, that'd be so cool. Yeah, it really stimulates that. And sure enough, she texted me later, and the bigger amount that really got her excited was what they received for their sale. And I'm like, wow. So, what is consciousness? Part two. What if it is the ability, like, to ask for things in your life? So, I don't know. I mean, what do you have to lose? And then also to not judge yourself if it doesn't show up. I mean, there are things that you could ask for, they might take some time. Like, I started asking for this indoor riding arena to show up in my life. Probably like really diligently asking for it, probably like almost 8 years before it actually showed up. And it never showed up like I thought it would. So like not just because it doesn't show up, next week or maybe in this year, depending on what your ask is, don't go into judgment of yourself over it. You're not asking wrong. It has nothing to do that you don't deserve it. It's like, what if the universe, consciousness just needs some time to rearrange itself to deliver your ask? Because you're finally asking for something. Hey universe, I'd like to have more peace with money, more ease with money. I'd like to have more money. I'd like to get a new vehicle. What would it take for me to get, a new SUV, maybe a new wardrobe? I'd really like to go on a hot vacation somewhere. How could that show up for me? I wonder. Those asks, just start asking away. And, you can run some clearing statements around it if you feel there's no right or wrong. The clearing statement is pretty magic. It clears any energetic limitations that you might have around receiving something. But that, asking. So what would you like your life to be like, and what would you like to ask for? I wonder. So that's Coffee Chat for today. Thank you so much for joining me, you guys. At the very beginning, I gave you a little tour. I'm in Hudson Bay right now. We're doing bars today and starting foundation tomorrow. And these are just the cutest cabins. Jack Pine Cabins is what it's called. And they're very reasonably priced, and there's just a lot of room, a really comfortable couch. The bed's a little bit hard, but yeah, it's all good. Okay, well, if you got anything out of this video, I'd love it if you would like to share it. And have an amazing day wherever you are, whatever you are up to. Mwah. And I'll see some of you over at the Daily Dose in a few minutes.